So you're going into retirement, you've read the books, you've watched countless YouTube videos, you've managed your retirement portfolio your entire career. You've got money in Plan 3, deferred comp, Roth IRAs. You've done it all yourself. You've got low-cost index funds or mutual funds from Vanguard or Fidelity. You're thinking, hey, if I've gone this far by myself, why can't I just keep going? I can just save myself the hassle of paying $1,000 of fees to an advisor if all they're going to do is buy and sell. Anyways, why should I get 1% of my portfolio? I'll just save the money in those fees, I'll do it myself, and I'll compound what the loss I would have taken had I paid someone to do this for me. I can manage it myself. This is a common assumption that a lot of people make going into retirement. The thing to understand is managing money in retirement is a lot different than managing money while you're working. While you're working, you're living off your salary, not off your investment portfolio. When the markets drop, you still have your salary to live on. It doesn't affect you that much. Yeah, you don't like seeing your portfolio go down, but it ain't really hurting you because you still got your salary to live off of. In retirement, when the portfolio is all you got and that's what you're living off of, you're not adding to it anymore. And in fact, you're going to start seeing it decrease as early in retirement. As the markets go down, as you pull withdrawals, it becomes a lot more stressful to manage. But managing money in retirement isn't just about being smart. It's about avoiding costly, irreversible mistakes. So let me talk you to a conversation I recently had with somebody in their mid-70s. They're a Washington State employee for about 30 years. They retired early at 62. And this is kind of his story. So he retired a few years back, age 62. Currently, he's 75 years old. So when he retired, he was a Plan 3 guy. He had about $700,000 in his Plan 3 investment account. He had a little over $300,000 saved in his deferred comp, and he had some money in a Roth. He had about $1 million when he retired. This guy was really into the numbers, did all of the research. He had spreadsheets and charts, only had low-cost investments, so very fee-conscious person. He wanted to get every cent possible. So he had his 30 years, so he was able to take retirement at 62 with no penalties. He didn't want to take Social Security early because he saw the hit there. So he's going, I'm going to wait till 67. So what he did in his early years is he just took his pension and they pulled out the portfolio. He was pulling about $45,000 a year. He said it was about 4%, maybe a little over that per year. He went with the 4% rule. So he got about 45,000 out per year on top of what he's getting from his pension. And he decided to save a few $1,000s and not hire an advisor. He didn't want to pay 1% fee. He could do it himself because he's done it his whole life. So he went with the whole 60-40 portfolio-ish. He had about 2/3 wrapped up in bonds, 40% wrapped up in the equity market. He was more that low-risk guy. I just want enough to get by till I get my Social Security, and then I'll shut off the portfolio, and I'll just live off of Social Security and my pension. Home was paid off, no debt. So that was his plan going into this. So let's walk you through 3 big mistakes that he made and how it cost him over $200,000. Mistake number 1 was he was so focused on the portfolio itself, he didn't really look at taxes or tax planning opportunities. And this is very common. A lot of people aren't used to or don't know what tax planning options are available to you. You might hear terms, but unless you sit down and talk to somebody of how to execute it, a lot of times it doesn't get done. So we talked about Roth conversions and why he wished he would have done them earlier. At the time, he always thought that there is no point in paying taxes now. I should just wait till later. Why pay early when I can just grow the portfolio? If I've got $1 million and I don't touch it, it's going to grow to $1.5, $2 million down the road. But if I spend half of it down trying to pay these taxes off to do this conversion, I'm going to have a lot less money. And I might not even have $1 million when it's all said and done. That was the mindset that he had. It's a common one I hear a lot of people. No one sees the benefit on paying taxes now. Why I want to pay, $60,000 in taxes right now at Uncle Sam when I don't have to. So here's what happened. Because he waited and didn't actually take action on the conversions, the portfolio did grow, just like he said. He got up to about 1.4 million. Remember, he was drawing from this account, plus there's some market turbulence in there. So he was averaging a little over 5.5%, after he took out withdrawals. So he had about $1.4 million at age 73 when the requirement and distribution started for him. His first RMD was about $52,000, right? So at 73, he was required by law to pull $52,000 out of his Plan 3 account and pay taxes on it. That was on top of the other, $65,000 he was getting between Social Security and his pension. So his income was $130,000. So he went from having income about $65,000, $70,000, gross per year up to $130,000 just because the RMD hit. So of course that's going to bump him from taxes. Now this guy was single, so he only had, half the write-offs. He was in the single income tax bracket. So at $130,000, he went from 22% bracket to 24%. $50,000 RMD pushed him into the higher tax brackets. That also triggered the IRMA, which is the increase in your Medicare premiums when you make too much money. So for single people in 2025, Medicare is about $185, per month. Once you go over the threshold, which is $106 in this case, and it's just like a penny over, and you're going to get kicked in the next bucket. Now you got to pay $259 per month. So it's an extra about $74 per month, $800 per year. But as you add that up, $800 more per year, every single year kind of adds up over time. When you look back and said, had he done the conversions earlier, that 10-year time period, instead of growing tax deferred, he would have got tax-free growth. So he missed out on probably at least $40,000 in tax-free gains had he done the conversion earlier. Now, because his taxes are higher and they're required by law, so unless anything changes, he's just going to be stuck in this higher tax bracket because you can't stop his pension payments, you can't stop the Social Security, and you can't just skip your RMD without getting hit with penalties. So he is stuck in this higher tax bracket, which is probably going to cost him at least $60,000 more in taxes alone because he didn't take advantage of the Roth conversions or the lower income tax brackets when he first retired, when he wasn't taking Social Security yet. So because he let those years go by, he's going to have to pay more taxes now for the foreseeable future. So between the higher taxes, the missed growth opportunity on the Roth conversions had done them earlier, plus the extra $800, $900 per year in Medicare, it would have cost him at least $100,000 alone just in the last 10 years by missing on these key opportunities. Right? So he didn't do anything wrong with the portfolio per se. It was just missed opportunities, which triggered higher taxes and higher Medicare. That's $100,000 that it cost him. 100% avoidable, or you could have reduced it down a lot. But because he didn't take action, didn't know about it, had these conceptions in his head of what he thought was right or was best for him, didn't consult with an advisor, didn't pay for the advisor because he might have saved the money of that year, but saving the money one way and then losing it to taxes, it ends up being a wash. So he would have been better off had he had someone in his corner helping him with this. Now, the second mistake, and this is a big one that a lot of people don't see or haven't probably realized yet, but it's becoming more and more obvious now. And if you never look at your investments or portfolio, you assume your advisor is doing it all for you, this is going to be a big wake-up call. And that is relying on bonds for safety. Now, if you're someone like this guy who has a significant chunk of money in bonds, you have half your money in bonds or 2/3 in bonds because it's the safe option, right? We have stocks and bonds. You always hear that when you watch any kind of financial content. Bonds have been negative for the last few years. So last year, yeah, they're up a little bit. But if you go back and look, most bond histories have been negative. So in this case, he was a Vanguard guy. He had the ticker BND, Vanguard Total Market Bond Index. So if we go back to the inception of the bond, which was in 2007. So we have about 18 years of history here. It debuted at $74.91 a share. So 18 years, you're still down about 3.4%. So if you have bonds in your portfolio, make sure you double check these because a lot of them are going down. Again, this is just the total market bond fund from Vanguard. They have another one, BNDX, which includes international stuff. That one is down about 14% last 5 years and a little over 1% since 2013. So 12 years there. If you look at just the aggregate bonds, so we go to iShares Aggregate Bond Index, which tracks the U.S. bonds in general, their 5-year history is also down 17%. So it's not just Vanguard or that one bond fund. It's pretty universal. So bonds, while they have been historically called safe investments, lately with interest rates rising and the way the stock markets have been going, they aren't producing the same safety protection they used to in return. They're supposed to provide, 1, 2, 3% per year, not really high risk. And now they're down double digits in just a 5-year time. Going back to his portfolio, looking at 2022, that's when the markets dumped on us, interest rates went up, and the bonds also dumped on us. He was down about 12% in the bonds, and his stocks were down about 20%. He didn't have a lot of cash on hand. He saw cash as a loss of money. Why should I get 0.5% on a money market when I can get a bond that we're supposed to return 3, 4, 5% per year? So he didn't have any cash. Everything was stocks and bonds. When he needed to take money out, the next month, where is that $4,000 going to come from? He had to sell something off. So he kind of picked and choose depending on what was down. He sold a little bit of bonds, a little bit of stocks, trying to keep it even overall. But what ended up happening was when the year ends down, you just added that 4% withdrawal on top of the losses. So if his stocks were down 20% and you pulled 4% out to cover your expenses, now you're down 24%. So retirement withdrawals will magnify your losses in retirement. So you're not just losing what the market losing, you're losing that plus what you withdraw. And it takes a lot more money or a lot higher return to get that money back. So a 20% drop takes 25% to get back to even. So losses will hurt a lot more than the gains will. The mistake he made was trusting bonds too much and also not having any kind of cash reserves to kind of offset this deal. Now, even if he had 2 years of cash on hand, it would help him for a little bit, but with bonds still being down, eventually he probably would run into that same problem. One reason to have an advisor is to have alternative solutions. Bonds aren't the end all be all. There are other structured investments that you can use inside your portfolio. There are not bonds or stocks that can help mitigate the losses and give you that safety that bonds are supposed to provide. So having an advisor that is in tune with that kind of things or tracking this can really help you out here. So because he didn't have that, he had to sell at a loss. He easily lost over $30,000, maybe $50,000 just because he sold when the markets were bottoming out. And when the markets came back up, because you sold out low, you missed all the upside. So depending on how long you want to push it out, that mistake right there could easily be in the six figures alone. Now, mistake number 3 was no long-term care plan. When you're single, he had kids, but he didn't really, see the need for it. He figured, I got $1 million. If and when the time comes, I'll just pay it out of pocket. I'm not buying some insurance product or wasting money. That was his thoughts going into it. Now, one thing we looked at was if something were to happen, how much would it be costing him and what it would have cost had he just bought the insurance earlier. And a lot of people get kind of concerned about or confused, why does long-term care cost so much? When you think about it, you're basically hiring someone either part-time or full-time, 24/7, 7 days a week to care for you. It's going to add up. So for example, if someone charged you $35 an hour to care for you 6 hours a day, that's $6,300 a month. If you need that care for a year and a half or 18 months, it's $113,000 alone just to pay for their time. That doesn't include the medical supplies, the transportation, the medicine, anything like that. So when you start writing all that up, that's how it quickly escalates and can be, north of $100,000, $200,000 for long-term care needs. Now, one thing I helped a client with recently was to kind of mitigate this type of situation in the future. We bought a hybrid long-term care policy. It might have been like $50,000, $60,000 of premiums. We divided up over 10 years. So it was like $400 a month for 10 years and he was done paying it. And the policy would pay, a little over $100,000. So you pay in $50,000, $60,000. Worst case scenario, you never use it. $100,000 gets kicked back to your estate or your heirs. You'll get your money back regardless. Now, if you were to need the policy, it's going to pay up to $150,000 long-term care benefits. So if you do need it, you can get up to $150,000. So you can see the $6,000 premium he paid in will probably use up pretty quickly there. And then after that, everything's on the insurance company, to pay for it. So whether or not that covers all of it isn't the point. The point is it mitigates and it cut your bill down quite a bit. So if you can pay $60,000 and get $180,000 back, should you need it in the worst case scenario, or pay the $60,000 and get back and never need it, but still get $100,000 to your heirs, it's sort of a win-win deal. Now, had this person gone that route and he's too old to really even go that part anymore, the premiums would be too much. That's where long-term care is something you need to start doing earlier. You can't wait till in your mid to late 70s to do it. Doing it in your 60s, 50s ideally, that's the best time to start getting that kind of plan put together. Now, if you would have had a policy like that, you can easily cut your potential bill down by 50% or more. So when you add up all these things that he kind of missed by doing things on his own, by taking the cheap way out, not paying the advisor, going for low cost funds, not seeing the bigger picture, missing out the Roth conversions, the panic withdrawals, the long-term care lack of planning. So when you add it all up, it's easily $200,000 to $300,000 of losses that he sustained. So about 30% of his portfolio, essentially, or his starting portfolio, or $250,000 gone in forms of taxes, selling at lower costs, giving it to Medicare facilities, paying it to Uncle Sam, you name it. Now, all of that just to save, $5,000 a year to hire an advisor, $10,000 a year for someone to manage your portfolio. So when you start adding up all these costly mistakes, the cost of hiring an advisor doesn't seem so high or crazy anymore. The fact is, a good advisor should be able to save you this money, plus earn you more money in the terms of the markets. But I know where you guys are coming from. A lot of advisors out there, that's kind of what their job, or that's kind of what the identity is of the market. If you're a financial advisor, all you do is trade stocks and bonds. I can do that myself through Fidelity or Vanguard. And while there's a lot of the big firms, that's still their bread and butter, is all they do is do the investment stuff. A lot of the little firms like Scenic will come in, will do all the investment stuff. We'll help out with the tax planning part of it, the retirement income part of it. You guys know, and all the Washington State stuff. So we can all coordinate all of that. So when you're shopping around for advisors, it's important just to look past the fees. It's the investment to protect yourself from future mistakes. And if you have someone that does more than just invest your money, they're probably going to save you a lot more in the long run and just make things easier for you. So remember, it's not about being smart, it's just about being prepared. You can do everything right, but because you don't know how to coordinate taxes, healthcare, signature return risk, income bucket preps, you can lose 6 figures relatively quickly. Remember, retirement doesn't reward the bold, it rewards the prepared. So if you're managing a loan, it's important to ask yourself, what does it actually cost you? Now, this is all hard costs. We didn't go into the emotional cost of it, the reading all the headlines, the stress of it all. Retirement should be a time where you're enjoying stuff, not feeling like it's a second job to manage your portfolio and try to stay sane. So if you don't want to deal with those problems, give it to somebody else. pay the money to hire somebody, get off your plate, and you'll be much more satisfied with what happens in the long run. And these mistakes are things that you can't really predict. This is all things that we look back on. So because we were able to look back and see what the errors were, that's only when we get to see the $200,000 loss. So hiring someone now, you're really just hiring to protect your future self, and you're avoiding these potential mistakes from happening. It's something that you'll never ever realize, because if you follow advisor's advice, you're going to see it, or hopefully you'll see it go pretty smoothly, and you'll kind of feel like, what am I really getting here? And you don't see what they've saved you from the entire time, or what the mistakes could have happened, unless you're properly looking at it from a what if standpoint, which not a lot of people do. So advisors get kind of kicked around a lot, especially in the media, saying that I can do it myself, investments and stuff. But until you see the big picture and look back on it all, you never realize the value that they bring. So if you're considering managing money yourself, I caution you to pump the brakes a little bit, talk to some advisors, and just try to take it slowly, because it's not just investments. You're not just paying someone to manage the money. It's the potential mistakes and it's the peace of mind that they're protecting you from. If you want to go one step further in order to help you guys with this, I actually have a free community going right now for Washington State employees only. So you got to be a Washington State employee. I'm going to ask you when you sign up, who you work for and all that. But you get in there, it's a free community that you can go in and ask questions. I've got videos and courses exclusive to there. You won't find them on YouTube. And it's just a way for you guys to get more insight, get more help that you guys need, and all from a supportive community. We've got over 100 members in the group now. I've talked to most of them. They're very smart, well-educated. And if you guys have a problem or a question, you can post in the group, and you can feel pretty confident that the responses you'll get will be genuine, accurate, and it'll come from a place of support. And you won't get those negative lurkers that you get in Facebook groups or YouTube comments. It's a protected group, supportive community. So if you guys want to get into that, it's free. Link is in the description below. And until next time, remember that your future depends on what you do today.